What's up, y'all? This is your boy DK Hammonds. I'm with Social Media Church, and today I have one of the design goats of Canva. Please pay attention to everything that he is saying to you. It's going to enrich your life, transform your ministries, and it's going to make you look better. You don't want to miss this broadcast. Roger, brother, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for all of those kind words. I hope I can live up to the hype now.
Oh no, you in good shape, good brother. You're in great shape. For those of y'all who don't know, Roger, look him up on social. His links will be in the description below. Is to me one of the design goats that you probably never heard of, but you've seen some of his designs. And I just so happen because some of my clients use Canva, and Canva is what we start out with our design mechanisms, unless we want to build out something robust. Then we move over to Adobe or Affinity. And so one day I was looking at night at 4:00 in the morning. I'm looking at the names of these designers. And I said to myself, he has all the church designs on file. I have to find him. I have to learn more. I gotta see. So this is why we got Roger here on Social Media Church. Roger, please tell a little bit about yourself and let's flow with it, bro.
Yeah. So I am a designer by trade. I'm a father, a husband, was a pastor for a long time. I'm sure that we'll get into all that stuff. But my entry into Canva was simply because I wanted to help my clients. They had revisions that they would want to make, and sometimes they were just so small. I was like, I don't even know how to invoice for this. So I started using Canva and creating templates for them so that they could just swap out their podcast episode title, their guest photos, because they didn't know how to use Photoshop. But Canva was really easy for them to use. So I made templates for them. And then I started going, hey, I think it was at the end of 2020, everybody's starting to get all this gear, you know, the webcams and the microphones. It's time to start my podcast, right? And so I released a pack of podcast templates on a site called Creative Market, and they were Canva templates, and they did very, very well. And I thought, okay, there's something here. And then Canva found some of my templates, and they sent me an email and said, hey, we're starting this beta program called Canva Creators, where we're asking designers to submit templates to the Canva library so that our Canva users can use them. And of course, there's a monetization piece because there's royalties involved. So like if DK uses my design, downloads it, I receive a royalty on that used design. And so that was kind of like my entry point into Canva and starting to meet some of the people behind Canva.
Man, that is amazing. And if you don't know, if you haven't, let me drop this tidbit. This is not an ad for Canva. Only one of us gets royalties from Canva. The other one does not. So let me share this with Canva. If you are a person that potentially wants to be a Canva user, I share this everywhere I go. I'm talking and having talks to that nature. Canva has a nonprofit program that all you have to do is apply with your tax ID, and they'll give you, I think, a pro version with a couple of licenses, and you're able to use Canva without a charge. And I think that's always amazing for churches who are maybe in an urban or rural area who can't afford something like an Adobe suite that may cost $40-$50 a month. They can afford this, and they can have Roger's designs, and Roger can get royalties from that. So please, ma'am, please, sir, this is not an ad. This is just me supporting it and saying, go and do that for your own church or business. So Roger, the next question that I have, brother, is this. Share the intersection of design, Jesus, and discipleship.
Yeah. Okay. So I went to school and graduated with a degree in religion.
Yes,
and then I came home and just started serving in my local church and started interning. And my youth pastor was like, hey, we need to make some registrations and some brochures and things like that. And so he showed me how to use Photoshop. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I was immediately like, oh, I think I got this. Like, this is really fun. Like, it's a way that we can communicate these important things to our youth group, but we can make them look really nice too.
For sure.
And this was also back when MySpace was a thing. And so he was like,
y'all know how long ago that was? Like he's saying MySpace. Go ahead.
Some people listening may not even understand.
Yeah.
But so I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's customize our MySpace page for the youth group. So I started learning a little bit of like, CSS so that we could customize it. Started learning a little bit more about web design. And it became one of those things that was like, it was birthed out of a need within the youth group, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that I pursued. I didn't go to school for it. But then I just started watching YouTube videos and there was a site called Creative Live where like they would go live and teach you about Photoshop, and you could do different exercises to improve your skills and stuff. So I just really started trying to like learn as much as I possibly could. And then I started working with more like clients, people, oh, Roger does design work, and word of mouth kind of like starts to spread. And so I started doing more of that and got really into like the video editing side of things. Pretty much anything that was like media, visual, that type of stuff within a church setting. Because of course, you start making stupid videos and funny videos for the youth group because it's fun and you're able to get them to laugh and stay engaged with the message. And so that became like a thing that we just did. We incorporated the visual and media into what we were doing on a Wednesday night for the youth group. Yeah. And then as I continued in ministry, it just, sermon graphics. Okay, let's make some sermon graphics and touch cards, invite cards, retractable banners. Because I helped with a church plant. So we needed all of that portable signage and stuff like that, right? And so design just kind of like filtered into every one of those things. And as I continued to design and take on more client work, a buddy of mine was like, hey, Raj, there's a guy I know named Jordan, and he just posted on Twitter that they're looking for someone to do like scripture verse of the day designs from YouVersion. So he was like, you should hit him up. So I was like, okay. So I just messaged him on Twitter, and he saw some of my work, and then he was like, hey, let's do like, would you be interested in a contract? So I actually did verse of the day images for YouVersion for several years. So people still see my name on there all the time. Of course, the designs are a little bit outdated now, but they still get shared and they're still making an impact for the kingdom. So that was a really cool opportunity to be a part of.
If you guys don't know, this is Roger and I'm DK and we're with Social Media Church. And really, I feel like we just flowing in the conversation. It's so good. And so just make sure you guys are following Roger on YouTube, Instagram, all of his social platforms to stay more closely connected to what God is doing. And so to your point, bro, you're saying all the right things. I hear the move of God kind of moving through your ministry, and how, yes, I did get a degree because I felt like I may have been called to the pastoral ministry, but I used some of those tenets of that degree, and now I'm using them in design. And so here's a question that's not on my list. I think it's dope. Who makes better designs? Those with those types of degrees in education and experience, or those who do not, in your interpretation? Because I'm going to tell you, there is a leveraging piece for those who have been trained in seminary that we have in the area of design that others do not have. That's just my opinion. Yeah. It's not Roger's. I want to make sure, because it ain't Roger's opinion, it's DK opinion. My opinion is those who have been trained, who understand how designs make people move emotionally, this is where they kind of go. So how you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And I've met enough designers from like every walk of life that, I don't know if I could say one is better than the other, but I do think that there is something powerful about people who understand that with design, like I've heard people say the difference between like a graphic designer and an artist is that graphic designers are typically creating a design with the purpose of communicating a message. Not that artists aren't doing that same thing, but it's their own message, right? Yeah. But graphic designers are usually hired to help an organization or a church communicate their message, whereas the artist, it's whatever they're trying to communicate and express. So I do think that being able to understand what is the message and how can we craft a visual campaign that aligns with that message, those are going to be pretty good designers usually.
Absolutely. Crafting visual campaigns. So I'm glad. I'm just gonna flow with you. So now, let's say I'm a person in church and I'm ready to craft a visual campaign. In your opinion, walk us through a mock process, not your process, just a mock one of what a visual campaign may look like in a faith-based business and in maybe a church type of setting.
Yeah, I think just understanding the goal from the jump, like what is the goal of this piece? What is the goal of this event? So that you know that you've got buy-in from whoever is going to help be creating all the collateral for that.
Yeah.
And then I learned this from my youth pastor. He said, anytime that we're making a brochure or something for an event, we've got a retreat coming up. These are the questions to ask. Who is this for? You just go who, what, where, when.
Yes.
And then if you can get a why in there, then that's great, right? So it's like, who is this for? What is this thing? Where is it happening? When is it happening? And then why would people be interested in coming to this? How is this going to impact their life? What value are they going to get from it? Those are the questions I like to ask when I'm thinking through like a campaign.
That's good. That's good. I think if I was asking those same questions, I would have those questions for sure. And then I think another thing that people may miss is the sizing structures that you need for said design. So if you need 19 by whatever, or you need 10 by whatever, give us that as well. So that when we create the entire package, we're going to create everything you just said and have the sizing structure so that we can get the package out and keep going. When we say package, we say collateral. Collateral is package. It is all the things that make up the design that go into that particular thing, for those who may not know. So that's what I would assume, having that sizing, having those questions. Also, here's a good one, making sure that JPEG images are quality, high resolution images. Let me tell you, churches, I love y'all and I love God. Sometimes y'all resolutions on these photos don't be hidden on nothing. And we have to raise that up so that designers like Roger Cole and myself can take those things, turn them around fast for you without having to do a whole bunch of work. Because here's the thing about Canva. Canva has the ability to remove the background images, and you can see right there on the very top new screen. It's literally the first button there where it can remove the image. If it's high res, it's going to look that much more professional and crisp, so that it can be consumed, used, so that people can move forward when it comes to design imaging. So great way to do that.
I'm like, yes, because that is a crucial piece that people don't often think. Can you make me this? What dimensions do you need?
Come on, man.
Like, where is this going? Is this a Facebook cover or is it a billboard? Like that matters.
Or we make it for like the local church who has the different types of screens in their church. Now we're talking about something. What size does that screen need so we can make sure that it's in succinct and it's ready to go? Because otherwise, your designer is going to be creating, and we're not going to keep them focused. So I know this may sound like a lot for those who are in the social media church space. So this is definitely a blessing to those who do design and graphic work. So,
and to your point, like, bringing it back to Canva, they do have something called resize. So when I'm creating a campaign, like I just worked on a book launch for an author, and it's great to be able to create that one piece. And then you go to click on Magic Switch, you click on resize, and you can say, hey, I need this to be in 5 different formats. And then bam, Canva will just resize it according to all of those different dimensions. And you may have to move some pieces around here and there, but it's a really great way. So if you're doing a full-on campaign, you don't have to start from scratch for each one of those canvases.
And I would rather do Magic Switch and stretch the screen out and make sure the designs are there and have to create those designs 6, 7, 8 times over.
Yep.
That's just okay. So all that be considered, man. We talk about Roger, but Roger, let's talk about Canva. We talk about you. We'll come back to you in a second. Let's talk about what are you most excited about as it relates to Canva?
Oh man, there's so many things. I mean, are we talking features? Are we talking
whatever gets it going, brother? What are you most? We can talk about the new features. I've seen some of the new features they have. I know some people are already running complaint videos, which I think is kind of, kind of forward, but not fully get, especially like as a person that's like a serial beta tester.
Yeah.
This thing takes 6 months to a year before we can get everything kind of where it needs to go.
Right.
So from that standpoint, what are you excited about? What have you seen? What do you think is going to really help churches in the media and media departments to that nature?
Yeah, I think that one really great leap that Canva took with this most recent event and their launch is a partnership with Affinity. So
Come on.
people who love Affinity, graphic designers who have maybe kind of like turned their nose up at Canva in the past are starting to pay attention because there were certain features that you were not able to do in Canva before that now this partnership with Affinity is going to bring a whole new suite of tools
Yes.
to the platform. So I think that one's going to be a really big one. As far as things that churches should use, the print piece is a really big one. So, like when I helped to plant a church, like retractable banners, like you just need stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Canva now has it set up so that you can design, you can print, and you can ship for free, all within Canva. I think that's something that might be underutilized from churches, especially when it comes to invite cards, touch cards, business cards, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there's the video editor is always leveling up. And so I think that's a really big one to pay attention to. I think over the next year, it's only going to get better. They already made improvements. They just dropped video highlights. So if you're at an event and you just do like, a minute long video, drop that into Canva and click the highlights button. It is a Canva Pro feature, but you hit the highlights and it's going to select the best segments of what the AI thinks are the best segments from that video. So again, saving you time. A lot of the AI stuff is really great, but I think my favorite piece that I use as a designer is probably brand kits. It's like the thing that I use all the time for designing with clients. I just set up multiple brand kits and it's literally just the click of a button, right? So you have your kids camp coming up, or maybe you're doing a vacation Bible school or something like that, and you've got the branding for it. And you can just add all of that into your brand kit with a click of a button, change some of the templates that Canva already has, and boom, you're off to the races.
It's a couple of things you mentioned, brother. I'm going to back up and I'm going to come back to brand kit because I think that's important. That's so important. But the first thing you mentioned is about the video editing and the importance and how AI is impacting design. And so with the video editing, for those of y'all who may not have known this, now you can literally take a video, say hit the highlight, and it's going to give you all of the highlights. So those of us who need reels or scissor reels, it's not going to give you B-roll footage, but it's going to be able to chop the video down where you can use them at a moment's notice. And I think that's really important as it relates to Canva, because again, if you don't have the money to go do anything else, Canva can do a lot of this work that you're asking to be done if you just apply yourself to it. So that's something that I do use. Of course, I have some other applications that I get into, but I definitely use that feature when it comes to big blocks of video I need for it to be cut real quick. It's going to give me the hot points, and I'm going to be ready to put those 15, 20 pieces of content out as much as I would like. Now, to your point, brand guides. Now, I'm going to give you my one of my first experiences with brand guides. And for those of y'all who don't know, my background is IT and systems. I just so happen to do this on the side. No longer bootleg. This is what I do full time. So, one of the first things as a tech guy, our job is to make sure that the branding is consistent across the board in our business and in our building. And so we had to literally take a brand guide and put it on everybody's computer. And why is that important? Because you can't make the excuse that you don't know which color to use, or hex to use, or font to use. The design is sitting, it's a folder on every computer, and you're going to see it flash across your screen every single time. Now we're in the entrepreneur space, I'm like you, Roger. The first thing I'm doing is creating a brand structure so I know what I can use, and I can provide a level of consistency with said brand structure. And so, Roger, walk us through high level what are some key components of brand structuring that people need to use as it relates to the social media and church space?
Yeah, so like branding can be a much larger conversation, but we'll talk about it just from like the design perspective, right? So within Canva, it used to be very limited, but they've added a lot more features to the brand kit area, so that now you can have, of course, your fonts. You can add in your logo, and I highly recommend adding in an SVG. It just means scalable vector graphics. So you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want without it becoming all pixelated. That's really important. We see that a lot. Yeah.
Hold on, Roger.
Pause.
The SVG is the most important design element, in my opinion, for what he just mentioned. I can make it as big as I want. I can make it as small as I want, and it doesn't lose its flavor or design. That's important.
And in addition, when you add those into Canva, because I've seen some people set up their brand kits and they're adding in like 15 logos because they've got the black and white version, they've got the color version. But the SVG allows you to just change the color. So, you could upload the main variations of your logo. If you've got like the horizontal, you've got the vertical, you've got the logo mark. Upload like the main versions as SVGs, and then when you're in the Canva editor, you can just swap out the color, clicking on the color palette, and make it whatever is consistent with your brand. That's a big one. And so logos, of course, fonts. Now they've added in so that you could have photos. So if you have like brand approved photos, things that you use a lot, these are great for like staff photos, maybe, or if you have pictures of events and things like that. That's a really great way to use that. Things that you're going to need quickly to just pull out from that sidebar into your designs. They also have brand voice. So if you could set up your brand voice to make it sound like the tone of your church. So if you're like a more playful, quirky, lighthearted type of a church, then you put that in there. And then anytime that you use what Canva calls magic write, which is basically, a prompt. So you just say like, hey, I need a headline for Vacation Bible School. Then it's going to use your tone of voice that you set up in the brand kit area to create that headline, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can add in icons, graphics, and things like that. So those are the big ones. Of course, color palette is a part of that. I missed that one, but that's obviously a big one.
Oh no, I got you. I'm gonna pick up right the alley-oop and dunk it, because your color palette needs to have the hex dex, however you want to say that, so that people can use the exact colors specified to your exact church, as well as you're gonna have the correct font. And so Canva, if you don't know, has great fonts, but if it's a font that you don't have, you can definitely go find it and upload the said font and make that a part of your brand guide or kit, and always use it. And here's a part I think people don't use enough as it relates to brand guides. Canva has, if you open up the brand guide, to the left, there's a button that says shuffle. It will shuffle the colors for you and give you a new variation of said design instantly. It will do it 4 different ways. So now you have a design, let's say white, and it will change it green, whatever the colors may be. And now you're able to use that for scriptures and for whatever the case may be. And it's already sitting there. So please, ma'am, please, sir, if you're under the sound of our voices, go over there to the brand guide and use it, because I think the brand guide is underutilized, because we can see the stuff that y'all are putting out with Canva and it's not as consistent as it needs to be. That brand guide will help sure that up, that every person has their own design elements, and it's really, really good.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Again, it's not Roger Cole, it's not his, it is mine. I don't want him to get in trouble with nobody. It's my opinion. All right. So as we continue, man, this is really dope. We've kind of covered a lot. So let's move to flying. So Roger, I enjoy flying to Mexico. I enjoy flying Cancun, Puerto Vallarta. Those are some of my favorite places to go to. I know that sounds a little basic, but I just enjoy going to those places. Now, Roger, do you enjoy flying? And if so, share one place that you flew to recently.
I actually hate flying. I love being places. I love going to new places. I don't like the process to get to those new places.
Oh
So, yeah, we won't dive too much into that. But yeah, so I flew to Sydney, and the reason that I flew to Sydney is because that's where Canva is based. That's where the headquarters are. And so let's rewind a little bit. On my Instagram, I started my Instagram around, I guess it was the end of 2020. And it was when Instagram Reels had just launched. So I joined a Reels challenge, and we were posting every single day. Everybody was trying to like learn this new feature that Canva had just dropped. And I've always really enjoyed writing like silly, stupid, funny songs. It's been something I've done for as long as I can remember. And I've written songs about Krispy Kreme and Doritos. And I wrote a song about a girl in my youth group called Jordan is Funk Nasty. And she wasn't really funk nasty. It was just like, something stupid and fun.
Yeah.
And so this is like the kind of stuff that I've done as long as I can remember. And so when I started using Canva, I was like, dang, I love Canva so much. I use it like every day. And so I was like, I'm going to write a song about how much I love Canva. And so the first song I wrote about Canva was just called Love Song for Canva. And I used all these crazy, silly Instagram filters. It's still on my Instagram to this day.
Yeah.
And I get a comment from someone named Melanie. Well, Melanie is one of the founders of Canva. And she said, my mom sent me this. I love it so much. And it started getting passed around to everybody that works at Canva.
That's dope.
And then I followed it up with a song called Canva Paradise, which was a parody of Gangsta's Paradise. This was before Coolio passed, so R.I.P. And that one, again, like, Canva was like, can we share this? Can we share this on our channels? So they started sharing it on their channels. And then Canva Create, it was the first one. Canva Create is Canva's largest event of the year, where they launch all of their biggest and newest products.
Yeah.
And so that was going to be coming up in 2022, I think around in September or something like that. And they reached out and said, hey, Raj, we'd love to collaborate. We have two ideas. One would be you host a virtual event, like right there in the States. But the second one, we're wondering if you're open to flying to Sydney. We'll bring you out and have you perform on stage like a new song that you write. And they gave me the theme. It's called Future is Visual. So they told me like the brief and everything. I was like, let's do it. So they flew me out. I performed on stage to, I don't know how many people were there. I don't know how many people were watching online. A lot. It was a lot of people. And that kind of like began this collaboration with Canva of like doing funny, silly songs. And then they hit me up at the beginning of last year and said, hey, Raj, we're doing a US campaign. Would you mind, like, we'll bring you into the studio, record a song. And it was initially supposed to just be like streaming radio. So it was going to play on Spotify, Pandora. Yeah. And then they were like, hey, we love this song so much. Can we up the usage so that we can actually play it for streaming TV as well? And so now it plays on Paramount Plus and Hulu and Amazon Prime. My friends send me videos like, I was watching football on Thursday night on Amazon Prime and I heard your voice. Want to make a presentation? Wow, with Canva, you can amaze the crowd. Want to brainstorm? Put your pencils down.
Yeah. That's amazing. Excellent story. And if you guys want to go look up Roger Cole on social, and you will see the video that he's talking about, whether it be on YouTube or I know it's on Instagram because I've seen it earlier.
Yeah.
So go over there and peep that out. So, man, we are getting into the wee hours of this podcast, and I've enjoyed thus far. But I would want to know from you, where do you find God in creating socially?
Everywhere. You know, I believe that when you look around the world and you see the beauty of creation, I've always been amazed at creation. I've been amazed by the human body. The human eye is something that really fascinates me. Like, I tell my kids all the time, I do this experiment and say, put your finger out right in front of you and stare at your finger and you'll notice everything behind your finger is blurry. Now focus on like DK, and now your finger is out of focus. Like the fact that the human eye can do that, like the creative process behind something like that has always amazed me. And so I believe that God is the source of all creativity. Anything that I do that I feel is creative, and even those who don't know God, they don't even realize that. I believe that God has gifted us. We're made in God's image. He is a designer, right? Yeah. And I believe that he's also given us the ability to create. And so I feel, what was it? What was the guy's name who did Chariots of Fire? How he feels God's glory when he runs. I feel that when I create, or when I design, or when I'm writing a silly song that it's not a worship song, it's not going to be something Chris Tomlin sings, but it's a funny thing, and I feel God's pleasure in that I'm using the gifts that he's given me to create something that wasn't there before.
Amazing. All right, so we've covered that. Last question. If I'm a designer and I want to follow and get my designs on Canva, what's the first step I need to take?
Yeah, the first step is, know your stuff. Like the design basics. What Canva gets criticized a lot for is that people are saying like it's real designers don't use Canva. And okay. I like to hope that my page is starting to shut that down, because I've been a designer for a long time. And Canva is now my number one weapon of choice. I still have, all the Adobe suite products, but I rarely use them because Canva is becoming more powerful day by day. Yeah. And so I would say, if you know how to design, if you understand design principles, it shouldn't matter what software you're using. You should be able to create something. So I would say, like, if you're a designer, start there. Start by understanding why color palettes work, why fonts pair nicely together. Like, understand the basics and the fundamentals of design. And then if you're interested in becoming like a Canva designer that's a part of the Canva Creator program, once you feel like you've got a portfolio that's like you're ready to share that with people who are going to be a part of the review process, submit an application. I think now you have to do like a video as well. You submit a video with that and apply to become a Canva creator and come hang out with me in the Canva Creator program.
My man. I think I'm going to have my team. I have one person on my team. I'm going to say her name on purpose. Her name is Alyssa Cunningham, and she does all of my company designs as it relates to churches and brand build outs, things of that nature. And she is phenomenal. And here's where she's phenomenal at. She is phenomenal at layering. And I didn't realize how important, and I use Canva and I'm pretty good at it. She's like light years ahead. She's like you. She used to use Adobe, but Canva is her weapon of choice because it's easier to kind of maneuver. But the way she layers design, that's to me is what makes the design go from 5 to 7 to like 25. Because how she just add this gradient here, this layer to the side. It's when you go through and when I go through and look at her designs and I just run my cursor against it, I can see all the layers. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what all that is. Yeah. So man, final thoughts, final things as it relates to our audience, social media church, and Canva. You up for?
Okay, social media. This one I try to talk about anytime that I'm given a platform in front of churches and ministries, because I do think that it's a big one. And it has nothing really to do with Canva, but it has to do with how we can engage our audience and our congregations online, right? Yeah. So in business world, a lot of people are using MiniChat. Yes, and MiniChat is this DM automation where you can engage with people even when you're asleep. You can offer resources for people even when you're, out of the office.
Absolutely.
And I really feel like it's something that church world should be on top of, because imagine sharing a resource, or you post something, maybe it's a sermon clip from Sunday morning and the pastor's talking about marriage, right? Hey, for more resources, like comment the word marriage, and we're going to send you like our top 3 podcast episodes that have to do with how you can have a fulfilling marriage, how you can love your spouse better. Or you're sending them a book, or it's about prayer. Like you're struggling with your prayer life. Hey, here's a playlist that I use personally whenever I sit down to read my Bible, and like drop them the Spotify link. Yeah. So I feel like that's something that it's not, I don't know if it's really answering your question, but I'm really trying to get churches on this MiniChat.
No, we're here. We're good. And it may be more coming out of this conversation. Let's stay there. So what MiniChat is, for those who don't understand, MiniChat is an automation. And one of the things I'm big on is churches using automations. And the reason why I'm big on that is because one of the complaints I hear from clients as well as churches and pastors is a lack of volunteerism. Well, if you lack volunteers, automation kind of can mediate or mitigate, should I say, the volunteer part, because it can actually operate as a resource. And so even when I build out processes, I build out a part of the process that has automation, but it doesn't remove the human touch. You'll always hear me say that. So to that point, what MiniChat does is just what I've explained. It allows you to have the automation without removing the human touch. So to that point, if I do want to give a resource or talk about the next conference that's coming up, or here's a good one, tell about the next calendar and events that's coming up, and you want to know about that, this could be a resource that churches can use. Because another thing that pastors, and you can take this with you, right? Another thing that pastors hate, and this is one of the things that I promise you I hear more than anything, is they hate repeating themselves. They hate it. It's just something about it that just grinds their gears. And so this gives you an opportunity where the pastor doesn't have to repeat themselves, and we can resource people in a way that doesn't dishonor God and is not weighing on the people that volunteer.
Yeah,
we use automation.
Yeah.
And so I love MiniChat. I've been practicing using MiniChat. I hadn't started using it with churches. I will start using it with my own. I do have clients that told me I have free reign to use stuff like that. So I will definitely be using MiniChat as what the business calls it, a call to action, using it to answer the call to actions for us in the business. So I think that does answer the question, brother. And that's using, in terms of social media, its weight, its leverage to impact the kingdom of God. Think about it. If 1,000 people watch a reel, and that's really a low number when we're talking about reels. 1,000 people watch a reel. And what if 30% of that 1,000 responded to your call to action, and then 20% showed up to church on Sunday? We have to think about those types of things as it relates to the digital church at hand. So I was reading American Bible Institute's report that came out about 2 weeks ago, because they were a guest on our podcast. Go check that out. And it talks about how we as Christians are using the Bible. And one of the things that it talks about is how we're using stuff online and how to engage people at a more higher clip. It breaks down that in report. So I'm not going to break the report down. You thought I was. I'm not. Go read the report yourself like I did. I go read the report. It's a really phenomenal report. And what makes it phenomenal is because it is not one of those reports that is excluding people groups. It is including everybody. So that's why the report, to me, is worth the read and the conversation. Because one thing I pull from the report and I give to you, the report said that some people see their spiritual journey and their means of discipleship, they connect that with church attendance, which means they don't go home to do anything else. And just them showing up is an act of discipleship for them. And that's not the case. So go read the report. It'll bless your life. Thank you guys for coming to Social Media Church. We just dropped the mic on y'all, and we hope that you'll continue to follow Roger Cole, DK Hammonds. And Roger, before we get out of here, please tell the people where they can follow you.
Yeah, come find me on Instagram. That is my playground. That's where I drop silly things. That's where I drop all my Canva tutorials. I also have a YouTube channel that goes into some long form content, because there's only so much I can do in 15 seconds on an Instagram reel. And then if you want to get in touch, go to mysocialdesigner.com and hit me up. I do lots of trainings. I just did a training for a church up in Canada. We did like 6 hours of training. And I'm going to the American Dental Association here at the end of the year. I'll be there for a couple of days training dentists how to use Canva for their business, branding, and marketing.
All right, y'all. This is Social Media Church. We love y'all.